we've been tracking everything in the numbers, and it looks like you guys are doing great. And we knew old Wade Arnold and some of the. I was back at Malazai when you guys picked up Banno, and so I've been tracking in the numbers all the Banno success, man. And it seems like Banno's been a really, really good pickup for you guys.
Well, Banno was acquired 7 years ago, and I was the CTO of Banno when we were acquired.
I didn't know that. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, I joined Wade and started building Banno. It would have been probably 10 years ago now. Yep. And our goal was to build an open banking platform. And we did that. We basically built we had to build an aggregation platform because, none of the core, providers would call us back.
Right. We get it. We get it. Yeah.
So I wrote a lot of code in the early days and then helped build the engineering team and design and operations teams, and then got acquired, 7 years ago. And then, the first 2 years of Jack Henry, I don't usually talk about very much.
Sure. We get it.
Very long years. But I give a lot of credit to Greg Adelson and Dave Foss, and Mark Forbes too, who's no longer at the company, but they really got what we were doing and decided to move all in. When Wade left, it was a tough decision for me to stay. I'd been running with Wade for a long time, and we built a lot of stuff together. But I decided that there's a lot of reasons, but the most specific reason was just that I really felt like community institutions were going to have a hard time competing, and that somebody had to stay inside one of the big three to build modern infrastructure and modern software, because a lot of the digital providers build outside in.
Yeah.
And there's this funny little problem in pretty much all of banking, in which all of the infrastructure was built before the internet.
Yeah, I love it.
All of it.
Yeah,
all of it. Can I just say that again? All of it. There's nothing you connect to where in which it was, where in which it wasn't built like in the late 80s and 90s, and we're still living with all that. And so, I got to know all that stuff I got pretty close to it all, and I could understand where the problems were. And so we felt like at Jack Henry, the best solution was to evolve inside out. So what we've been up to is much more sophisticated than building, digital banking apps. In all honesty, from the get-go, our apps have been an afterthought. Mm-hmm. Because, I'll just give you the quick story. So Wade and I show up to go meet with Greg Adelson when he was running iPay. And we had built this, basically you can think of it as a small early version of Plaid. In those days, this is like a decade ago, all the aggregation platforms were super slow for mobile. So we built I built a streaming platform that scraped and streamed. And so then on top of that, we built a switch kit. And so then we had sold that to a couple of large financial institutions. And then we got a meeting with Greg at iPay, and we were pitching him, the switch kit, hey, you can do bill pay switching and all this kind of stuff. And he was like, no, I'm not interested. Can you build mobile? And I was like, how hard can that be? We already, little did I know, it was gonna pick up the next day of my life. Anyway, we just went home and built a mobile app in a month and a half. I'm not even kidding. In maybe 2 months, and then we went to Finovate, and then that's sort of the short version of how we got acquired, because we started basically being a mobile app provider. But underneath the hood, we've always been working to build this banking infrastructure, banking as a service infrastructure. And so, kind of circling back to about 5 years ago, the company just pushed all in with us. They said, okay, go ahead and build it. And I'm not kidding you. One of the executives got right up, real close to my face, and he just said, hey, we're going to trust you to build it. And I said, okay, let's go. So at the time, when we were acquired, I think we were roughly, my memory isn't great with some of this now, but maybe 50 people, 55 people when we were acquired. And we had kind of dwindled down to maybe 40, and then from there, we 5X'd the team like very, very quickly within 2 years and went to nearly 200 people. And then now we're maybe 570 or 580 people now. And just we keep building. So we went from, a few 100,000 users to now we're inching up on 6.5 million users on the platform. No back doors on the platform. So the way I always sort of say it is we're building banking as a service across all of Jack Henry's cores. But the difference between us and everybody else is we're building it inside out. So what that means is that I can, for example, our team can go to Stacy Zengel, who runs all the banking cores at Jack Henry, and we can say, hey, Stacy, like when we run, when we're trying to get accounts and balances and say like scheduled external transfers, that code path is like super slow or super problematic, and we don't like the API. So can you change it? And so then that's what happens. And so then that's actually a real story. That was lagging to long. So much of the stuff was built without ever having intended to have access beyond a teller. So What I always say, the systems underneath the hood are teller-centric systems. So like every core system is sort of has a teller centricity to it, meaning it was designed for a teller. Well, how many tellers are at a bank or a credit union? Even the larger ones, not very many is the answer. Right. And now you're then expanding it to, so pretty much everybody that has an account. So, you have to scale the insides of those systems back through. Right. And then in the meantime, what we did is we started, and this is also not well known at Jack Henry, is like when we have a very sophisticated stack. We all run, been cloud native since day one, very sophisticated engineering team, cutting, almost bleeding edge, aggressive technology of adoption of open source, aggressive adoption of Kubernetes, like all that stuff. And so when we connected into Jack Henry's middleware system, we knocked it down, knocked it over. They couldn't stay up. And if you've been at Malazai, like you understand, like you can take these systems down pretty easily, actually. Yeah. And so then we just went and worked with the middleware teams. We're like, hey, so Jack Henry has, in the meantime, completely gutted all of their middleware solutions, completely modernized them, moved them to the cloud, scaled them out. So we run more events now through Jack Henry's middleware system known as JExchange. It's not what it was 5 years ago. It's we really need to rename it because it's completely gutted, scaled up, modernized. And that now, basically that middleware layer now lives in what we now think of as a banking as a service, platform. And I sometimes draw this in presentations, but basically we're just moving down the stack and moving it up into the cloud. Does that make sense? And so there's this progression of just like, Mark Andreessen, talks about software eating the world. Well, we're just eating up Jack Henry's software stack, slowly but surely. And all of it just gets progressively modernized and moved up versus trying to come outside in and build something that ends up being very disjointed and sort of Frankenstein for a bank or a credit union, if that makes sense. Yeah. And then one last thing is we built, the other thing that was so frustrating to me was nobody uses internet standards. So like, all of banking is like, we have this huge problem with just basic authentication, right? OAuth 2, OpenID Connect, like why doesn't anybody use it? Like what planet are we on? Everybody else thinks it's a good idea, except, everybody in banking. So we built a proper tokenized auth platform and an identity platform. And that identity platform can bridge and connect into things like Auth0 or you pick one, but we really built that then for Jack Henry. That's then what really enables open banking, because now the kind of big punchline is we went and got deals done with Yodlee, Plaid, Finicity, and Akoya.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually have a deal with Intuit to do API integration as well, but we're working through some of the details there in terms of the how. And then in the middle of all that, become heavy adopters of FDX, and again, just using standards. So, and then all that integration then gets rolled out to our customers who are on the platform. So all 6.5 million users get that at no cost.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
And no lift. So we're in the middle of rolling Plaid out today. Finicity will be done by the end of the year. And the last big goal, we built a screen scraper at Banno. I just want to get rid of them all.
I hear you. Yes, they need to, right?
Gone. Banking.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's kind of my quick, quick summary of what we've been up to inside the company. Sorry, one more thing. I really have to be careful because none of this is possible without, Jack Henry deciding to sign up for it. And then every team inside the company really prioritizing working with us out, sort of inside out. If that makes sense.
You guys have always kind of, even from Profit Stars, it's kind of been the outside vendor acceptable solution. It's a lot easier to integrate. Everybody's first step,
the more open.
Yeah, the baby step is always, let's get Jack Henry first, use J-Exchange and get that rolling.
Yeah.
So let me ask you something. When you get to, the different sponsor banks that you guys are behind, which you got some pretty heavy hitters there.
They have Evolve.
Yep.
You guys have Evolve, right? I believe. Yeah. I mean, they probably got 70 something fintechs running on that.
76.
Yeah, it's a ton.
We're tracking on that. So I don't know. They probably have more, but is some of what you're talking about enabling them to work faster, easier, and more specialized?
Can I restate that, Ben? We sort of have on the core technology side this rebuild the stack moment for banks. At the same time, you got sort of the fintech side, the challenger side sort of coming from the other direction.
Right.
And then you got the sponsor banks in between, right? That are enabling banking as a service for these fintechs, somebody like an Evolve. That's sort of an interesting picture that I don't think everybody has a great handle on.
We're seeing such a specialization now.
You bet.
And so you get, Meta here, you get, different players doing different
Cross
things.
River,
Evolve is just knocking it out on new accounts.
Yep.
So different ones have kind of become specialists. And now this is a great question for the audience out here. Pay attention. This is a good one. Is this specialization a factor of a funnel? There's too many fintechs trying to come into too few sponsor banks, or is it more of a specialization because of things like what you were talking about, back-end access that enables certain feature functions better on certain systems?
Mm.
That's a big question, and I have a lot of opinions about it. In general, I would say the problem is in all those dimensions. In general, fintech has this underlying problem across the board. I don't care who you are or what partner bank you have, whether it's a large bank or small bank, you have an infrastructure problem. Period. And I'm very close to a lot of the platform banks. I have a lot of friends connected to those banks. I know some of the CEOs. So, I'm right here. I actually live in Cedar Falls, Iowa, where Lincoln Savings Bank is, if you know that bank. So I'm, big shout out to them. They're a great bank. Know Eric, the CEO there. Friends with folks at Cross River. So, I've got a pretty good feel. MVB is a bank of ours. They play, at the end of the day, Jack Henry, a big part of our mission is we have to help our community financial institutions compete. And that how they compete is up to them, right? So if that means making sure that we become like one of the best infrastructure providers for fintech partner banks, 100%, we have to be there. And we actually want to be the best in that game. So
I think
are we that? No.
Yeah.
That today, I just want to be really clear. Is Jack Henry the best infrastructure provider? I would say it's really an even playing field. You're just going to have trade-offs with any underlying ecosystem that's underneath any of these platform banks. And generally what they're doing is they have some legacy core system that's way buried underneath it, and they built all this stuff around it. We are inverting that. So we're building ground up. So we're building all net new infrastructure from the ground up all the way back into this already modernized banking as a service stack.
Right.
And what we think is that there's going to be banks like Incredible Bank, who are not currently a fintech platform bank. They're going and competing with them, and they're winning. So they're going to go compete on a national scale for small business banking services for small business, and they're crushing. I mean, they're an awesome bank. I really believe that community financial institutions can go compete in that space. They can win on service relationships and trust with good technology. Now you have to have the technology. It's like a big if. You have to have that. And then you have to have good partners. But if you have that, you can go win. If you want to be a fintech platform bank like an MVB or an Evolve, we also want to be the best possible provider for them as well. And we think we have a jump pretty much. Again, I don't think the choices for infrastructure are easy for anybody. That's why Wade's doing what he's doing, right? Yeah. Like there's no modern infrastructure for fintech either. Right. And if you give he and I a bottle of wine, we'll give you all the gory details. Like we know, we understand all the way to the bones of how this US banking infrastructure sort of lives and works. And so, for us, the short answer would be we want to be an arms provider on both sides. So if you want to go compete, you can go compete and win. Now, there's an in-between state that we're pretty focused on. And again, the idea is we provide optionality to our institutions. But a good example is, so we have this open platform, we have an open ecosystem. If you're familiar with Autobooks and Steve and Derek and those guys.
Well,
we love what they're doing. We think that platform is very competitive to like a PayPal, Intuit, Square, and especially in terms of specific features like, request for payment, et cetera.
Gotcha.
So what we did, we went and we just did a partnership with them. We worked with them. They built into our platform, send invoice, get paid. Mm-hmm. And now that gets embedded in our platform and then rolled out to all customers, zero cost, zero lift. So we also think there's this third path in which we can begin to embed fintech ourselves and then allow our customers to use that to go compete. And again, how they compete, up to them. Right. Like I can't meddle in the way they want to run their banks and credit unions, up to them. Couple more examples of that. We did a deal with, so I'm a huge fan of fintech that really play in the larger bank space. That might sound like an odd framing, but I like Autobooks is working with TD Bank. I love that. There's another really wonderful synthetic fraud system company called Centilink. They're fantastic. Mm-hmm. Again, working with larger financial institutions, and we want to bring them in. We did a deal with MasterCard and NewDetect for credential stuffing protection. Why? Because they have credential stuffing protection for most of the large financial institutions, right? And we can then, as Jack Henry, we can go get deals done at large scale points and then provide that a lower cost structure back through to our institutions. Or in the case of Autobooks, we're really looking for win-win-win situations where Autobooks wins, Jack Henry wins, and our customers can win. You might say, well, how'd you do that at no cost, no lift? Well, we also have a pretty good payments as a service platform that we're continuing to aggressively build out. Well, Autobooks uses that. So we can make a little money on payments, right? Autobooks makes some money on payments, and then our customers get a big win. We're just going to be hunting those kinds of embedded fintech plays. I don't know how many of them we can do, but I'm hoping we can do maybe, we did 2 this year. Well, more than 2 technically with all the outside in providers, but if we can get 1 or 2 of those done a year for our customers, and then where in which we can't get that win-win-win, we can get a slightly less but better, but still pretty good, where in which we can get a much lower cost structure in place. Okay. Another example is Alloy. Go ahead. Yeah. Sorry.
Let me call a time out here. So this is just get every inch we go down this conversation. I love it, man.
Yeah.
We get closer to this. We're knocking on the door of the crypto word, right?
Yep.
So at a certain point out there, it's like, okay.
I mean, he almost said DeFi, right? It was like,
it's like we're this close to getting over into that.
I love it.
At some point, this becomes to merge together with, I keep trying to tell people, I think banking, fintech, and crypto will be the same game at a certain point. Maybe it'll outlive me, but at a certain point, or maybe it's next week. I don't know. Hey, we've got some breaking news here. So this morning, this is your girlfriend's glasses. I'll use these to break the news. We had Jack Dorsey change the name of Square to Block.
I saw that.
Now, why would he do that, right?
Yep.
This is a payment system deluxe that is out there that is now Block because he's the biggest blockchain-aholic there is.
Yeah.
Where does this payments world, blockchain world, banking world, auto books world, fintech in general, and also I've got to say this, man. Yes, change the name from J Exchange to J Exchange 2.0.
J Block.
J Block. Dude, and we'll have a rap team going.
Yeah,
right?
I'm getting calls like crazy from bankers that are finally figuring out that crypto, like forget the currency crap, right? Forget the Bitcoin stuff.
Tech play.
They're figuring out that it's a technology play. And I feel like that is just, I mean, look, we had a 5-dimensional conversation before, and now you just blew us to pieces, right?
Right.
This is a wild
that's
world.
Why
right
I
now.
love to hear people like him. I want to
cool.
hear your thoughts on all of this, man. Are we going where I think we're going here?
Well, I'm pretty deep just technically on these things. I think the first thing that people, I don't think entirely understand, I'm not saying like people who are deep in the crypto space understand this, but these are monetary networks.
Yes.
And that's the thing that people don't understand, even about Bitcoin. You can move $1 on Bitcoin, right? So these are global open monetary networks. My belief is pretty simple, that we will live in a very hybrid world for a long time. So we will live in a fiat world and we will live in a cryptographic monetary network world. And those will bridge. And you can already see that Visa connecting through USDC.
222, yeah.
We're involved in a number we're involved in, for example, I'm all of a sudden hesitating because I think this is public, but we're involved with a pretty large payments. I'm real bad at making sure we're breaking know but we're involved in a couple of large situations where crypto is involved. And at the end of the day, what I always say is in the banking ecosystem, everything comes down to settling and clearing. And so there's going to be a lot of cross settlement and a lot of payments sort of infrastructure that just gets built up from scratch. There's another sort of gnarly problem in our space with community financial institutions, and there's not enough core systems that are multi-currency capable.
Right.
Well, we're going to be fast in a world in which we actually have multi-currency for the US dollar, meaning we have stable coins, right? So if you have USDC settling back through, most core systems can't even support like stable coins. So at the end of the day,
that conversion, right? I mean, the payment, take it to or gold or metal or whatever.
Mm-hmm. To me, this begs the big question that we were talking about earlier: is everybody's going to have to build new infrastructure? Everybody. So you're going to have to, and you're going to have a hybrid infrastructure world. People ask me, I'm a big fan of DeFi. I use it. There's going to be a long road to hoe in terms of regulation and how things get regulated and what happens there, right? But regardless of that, we're going to be in a very hybrid world in which fiat ecosystems are integrated and working with cryptographic monetary networks pretty consistently. So if you then drill down underneath the hood, there's this deep problem in which nobody has the infrastructure to really support it. There's a few people that do, and I can name them very quickly. Square would be one. You experience it in their app. Coinbase would be another, right? And all you have to do is kind of ask yourself, like, what did they build in order to onboard via ACH and then hold some deposit and then get those funds out into a cryptographic monetary network in exchange for those assets? Like, what are they doing? How does all that work? Like, I'm staying out of the weeds. I know how it works. They have partner banks and they have, cross settlement clearing systems, but they have ended up building their own infrastructure. Another good example would be Stripe. You know, they have net new ground up infrastructure. And by that, I just mean what you would know as settlement and clearing systems and payment systems.
Right.
That are capable of interacting in this world. So where I think things, the other thing is that I don't think people understand that stable coins are payment rails. Right? They're just, you know, they don't think of them like that. As well as, you know, because then USDC can settle on 5 blockchains.
Right.
And there's just not enough people that really understand settlement and clearing. But at the end of the day, that's where kind of all this is headed. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I think is interesting, if I just switch gears a little bit, is Solana. You know, and I'm just gonna, if I get this wrong, like I'll be embarrassed in public. But I think, you know, Visa processes roughly 40,000 transactions per second. I from what I've read, they can handle up to maybe 60,000 transactions per second. Solana fell over at 400,000 transactions per second. So I'm just gonna wait.
I got it in my account too, man. I'm with you.
Oh, that one.
400,000 transactions per second. You know, so like, and they think they can achieve 700,000 transactions per second. And I'm looking, I was just reading, there's a really
cost. Yeah. And that's
what's that?
Thing. Also at a way cheaper cost. Hey. And this has got to scare the hell out of Visa.
Let me tell you, like where this is going is there's a company that just got funded called the Meme DAO. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What they're working on is instead of you getting paid every 2 weeks, mm-hmm. you get streamed money.
Yeah, it's like factoring your accounts receivable financing, like selling your
slowly accumulate your earnings.
Yep.
I don't think people understand how payments and deposits are going to change
and how fluid in real time it's going to be. That's the kicker. You think about compound interest. Woo.
Yep.
Things are getting interesting.
You're living in a world today where every 2 weeks you get your check, and then every 2 weeks you have your bills every month or whatever, and it's all out of whack.
Yeah.
And when you stream these types of things on the income and expense side of life, it's more beneficial for the consumer.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I think that, and then Bitcoin is now an apex asset. So, you know, that it's just here to stay. And everybody's going to have a lot of difficulty figuring out how that lives in our ecosystem, but it's here to stay. It will be a primary, you know, store value asset, and it will be built into all of FinTech. And you're back to your question about Square or Block. I mean, you know, I'm a big, you know, I love what they're doing because more so in Square than almost anywhere else, you can actually live in that hybrid world.
Right.
You can use, like, for example, Bitcoin as your store of value. You've got this debit card, you've got this deposit account, you can deposit dollars, you can get them, you know, very easily. And Square still has the best Bitcoin buying experience by far. It's the easiest. It's just a couple of clicks. You know, so you can start to see the hybrid world developing, you know. And so I just think we're going to be in a hybrid world. For us at Jack Henry, we're focused on making sure we build the right infrastructure and we make the right technical decisions to support that hybrid world, so that our institutions can go compete in that space. Again, how they compete up to them.
I appreciate it. I'll tell you what, for the non-nerds of the world that are sitting here listening to us going, you guys are weird, right?
Yeah. We're all pretty far out there.
We're a little weird. Okay. But at the same time, really what we're talking about here is when he talked about an alternative monetary system, basically, that's what crypto is to us. That's how we see it, how he sees it. What he's talking about with Jack Henry being able to build this, let's call it middle layer of application interfaces that allow people to get information in the way they want it, in a faster way that they want it, a more efficient way that they want it. So that enables companies to come into your bank and say, hey, we can offer you this cool product you can offer to your customers in a better, more efficient, faster, cheaper way than before. That's a good thing. Now, this crypto conversation we're having, think of it this way. There's a spaceship, and then there's another spaceship, and then there's docking station. And in the middle, you got to get inside of here, put your space helmet on, and we're going to decompress that, right? And then you can go to the other spaceship. that room is what is
It's
being built.
the on-ramp and the
person-
off-ramp.
The person that owns that room owns this whole game,
Right.
because that's where this is going to go.
Ben, final thoughts, man. Go. This is cool as shit conversation, by the way.
Yeah, I
But
love
final
it.
thoughts.
I
Final
want to hang
thoughts.
out with you.
Well, I mean, I just think the world is not a better place without our community financial institutions.
Oh,
So, and they're a bedrock. They are a bedrock of our U.S. economy. Nobody else has this bedrock in the world at our scale points. And Jack Henry wants to help them compete. And we're going to build the technology that helps them compete on any dimension they need to compete in this new landscape.
thank you for doing
Awesome.
that.
I appreciate that.
Let me give you an invitation. Bankers Helping Bankers is something that we put together. I don't know if you've heard of this yet, you will. And it is built to save community banking. We think there's a part you guys can play in that, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, 100%. And I am aware. I mean, I lightly follow you guys on LinkedIn. So yeah, it's super cool. I love what you're doing, and happy to be involved in any way, that makes sense.
Appreciate it. Hey man, when you ever get to Austin, Texas, let us know. We'll hang out. I don't know if you like to fish or drink wine or what you like to do, but we'll do all
More of a
that.
whiskey guy, but hey,
Yeah.
Wine and whiskey go the same as far as I'm concerned.
perfect.
I've never been discriminate when it comes to alcohol.
I'm agreed. Totally agreed, man.
Well,
We
it's
got
going to start snowing up there soon. You might want to get
That's
south
right.
and come hang out with us for a while.
that'd be good.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's actually a great idea. This is going to become a better and better idea by the day. Hey, it was great meeting you guys. Really enjoyed it. You guys have a good one.
We'll see you next time.